João Pedro Neves Felipe, or simply just Jota, is the Celtic summer signing you may not know too much about. But we're about to change that as we speak to Aaron Barton, who is, I'm told, the go-to guy for insight on Portuguese football. You're the founder of Proxima Jornada, which you may or may not tell me, the number one English-speaking Portuguese football site.
Well, if we're up there, that's a huge.
I set you up
a
there,
huge
mate. You're
compliment.
meant to just say yeah, mate.
I
We're the
know,
biggest.
I know. I'm too humble. So yeah, Próxima Jornada, that just covers Portuguese football. And yeah, the go-to guy. That's not a bad. It's not a bad tagline. That, so I'll have that. Yeah.
Definitely. Right, so we're chatting about Jota. By the way, everyone, I forgot to mention, we also had a chance to speak to him earlier today as part of a Celtic press conference, so we're going to intersperse, fancy word, that into this interview as well. So basically, over the next half an hour or so, you should find out everything you want to know or need to know about Jota. Starting with the name, Aaron. Celtic are going with Jota, I think. Is that what people in Portugal call him?
Yeah, Jota. Yeah, Jota. It's just the sound of the letter J in Portuguese is pronounced Jota. So a
Yeah.
lot of players who have the letter J in the name will just go with Jota or be referred to as Jota, like Diogo Jota. He has Diogo to us, to English speakers. He has Diogo J on his back, but for Portuguese, they read that as Diogo Jota because that's all that is. It's just a letter. So yeah, João Felipe, Jota. Sometimes they'll change between the two to avoid confusion with the aforementioned Diogo. But yeah, Jota, can't go wrong.
I'm just smiling there because when he was first announced as a signing or a potential signing, for some daft reason, I went with Jota, which is, I think, a kind of Spanish way to look at it. I was getting abused. Yeah. Our wonderful fans in the channel were abusing me, and now you're laughing at me as well. So we'll move on, mate. Tell us about his journey so far, because he was at Benfica, I think, since he was 8 years old. He worked his way into the first team, didn't quite get his opportunity at Benfica, or didn't quite take his opportunity at Benfica.
Yeah, pretty much. So he's a Benfica boy, has been since he was a kid. He went out on loan last season. He was at Valladolid in Spain. But yeah, in terms of his Benfica journey, he progressed up the ranks and at the same time was performing really well with a Seleção youth side, so like the Portuguese youth side, so the under-17s, under-18s, under-19s. He's currently now part of the under-21 setup. And that was sort of going side by side with his Benfica career. He ended up breaking into the Benfica B team, which to those outside of Portugal, that might not sound too sort of like playing for a B team, because obviously in other parts of the world, B teams are usually made up of under-23 teams and sort of like second string outfits, whereas in Portugal, they compete in the second division. So he's still playing men's football with Benfica B coming up. When he was in the league, he will have been coming up against some of the teams who are now in the Primeira Liga, so the likes of Famalicão, Estoril, I think maybe Vizela, clubs like that. So that's a good breeding ground for him to get some experience and, as I say, come up against a mix of these youthful sides, these other B teams, and also senior players. So yeah, in terms of his senior minutes, he hasn't done too badly, but then getting into the Benfica first team, I wouldn't say it was his pathway was blocked. I think now under Jorge Jesus, he wasn't going to get a chance, so he had to either go out on loan or he was, they were completely open to that. He's a player that Benfica fans have loved for the last couple of years because he was tipped to be the next one to really break off. And there was a time when his name was the name that was ringing around over the likes of João Felix and then at national level with Portugal, it was always him and Francisco Trincão, who then moved on to Barcelona, and he's obviously now at Wolves, and he's started the season quite well despite Wolves' poor results. He's played well, but yeah, it felt like these players that were sort of in and around his age group were getting their moves, but for Jota, it wasn't quite happening. As I mentioned, he went out on loan last season. I think he scored one, but again, 16, 17 appearances, but they were sandwiched in between. He had an ankle injury, which kept him out for don't know the period of time, but it was maybe 4 or 5 games, so maybe a month or two. and then he came back from that, and then he had COVID. He was out with COVID, and then he came back from that. And as we're seeing with a lot of players, when they come back from COVID, they're only playing 15, 20 minutes. It takes them, even these athletes, it takes them, a while to get up to speed. And it's sort of like, just as he gets sort of back into the team, back up to the speed, the season's finished. So I think it's been a frustrating one the last couple of seasons for him. He's always showed glimpses of what he could do. But I think especially when you're playing for a club like Benfica at the real sort of the top of the Premier League, and a club that wants to be playing in Europe and competing, especially under a manager like Jorge Jesus, where there's maybe patience for the younger players isn't the greatest, and you can take that as a positive and a negative. He likes to rely on experience. He likes to rely on players he can count on. So yeah, it was clear that he wasn't going to get too many minutes, and now this has sort of ended up with him at Celtic, which for my money is a brilliant move for him. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on. But when I first heard about the links, I was thinking it's perfect. It's perfect because he's going to a side that I imagine will have a lot of the ball. Celtic are every single season going to be one of the two best teams in that division. And I like what I've seen so far under the new manager. I won't attempt to destroy his surname. We'll just call him Ange. I think people call him.
we like Ange as well, yeah.
But yeah, from what I've seen, he likes to play that sort of like pressing system, and I may be wrong, but likes to win the ball high up the pitch and keep the ball. And I think he excited to see him in that system. Excited to see him get minutes, and he's versatile as well, which helps because obviously the Kyogo plays predominantly on the left, and he's hit the ground running. Correct me if I'm wrong on any.
Yeah, I mean he's played on the left, but I think everyone now understands that he's going to be a striker because we've sold Edward. Yeah, so I think Jota is going to probably play on the left.
Nice.
I never liked Jorge Jesus, by the way. He made some comments when Celtic played Benfica, I think about 10 years ago or so. I just ask you to comment on that again. Celtic, the right kind of move for Jota at this stage in his career? Is it just, why do you think it's such a perfect kind of match?
Because I think he's at the right point of his career. He's at like that because his ambition, especially obviously growing up through Benfica, he'll have wanted to play in that first team, and he'll have wanted to probably stay at them for the rest of his life. The way these players do, and then if a big move comes in, these players. If the right money comes in, if you're a club like Benfica in Portugal where the finances aren't great, then you'll get sold on. But the players that come through that academy, they're happy. They're playing at one of the best teams in the league, in the home country. There's no sort of adaptation or anything. Whereas he knew he had to go, and from what I've heard, especially in the media in Portugal, is that he was actively pursuing a move where he'd be able to get minutes. So that straight away shows you he's not happy. He's not just to sit round. He might have been told he's not wanted, and go and sort of go after money, or basically go after somewhere where he might not play a lot. He's looking at Celtic and he's probably thinking primarily, on a loan, get some playing time, play for one of the best teams in the country, for a fan base that when they take to you, they really take to you, and he'll know that. Just even being Portuguese, the people in Portugal know how what the supporters like at Celtic and in Scotland, and how passionate the supporters can be. So it'll give him a chance to sort of feel loved, which I feel like a player like him, especially his style of play, he's the type of player he wants to entertain. He wants to get goals.
Player.
Yeah, he wants to get goals. He wants to get assists. He wants to be the main man. He wants to be winning awards. But if he's in and around the first team picture at Benfica and they're winning titles and trophies that he hasn't contributed to, he's the type of player that it won't mean much to him. He wants to go somewhere and he wants to have the crowd singing his name. Basically, he's that's as all players do, to be honest. But I think with these sort of entertaining players, these flirty players, the ones who they like to, they like to be in the cameras, they like to be, showing people what they can do, getting people off the seat. And so I think with Celtic and the project that Celtic are building, which looks really positive as well, is especially if Kyogo's playing that through the middle, it gives him that left hand side. He can play on the right, so he can switch up in game, which he likes to do, and he did that a lot at Benfica B, pop up on the left, he'd cut in on his right foot, and then, sort of the fullbacks would get wise, he'd swap over to the right, gives him another outlet, because being right-footed, it means he can use his dribbling to take on a man and then put a cross in. So on both ends of the pitch, both sides of the pitch, he offers something a little bit different. So he's got that versatility as well.
The thing we say about a lot of signings when they come to Celtic, we wonder whether they can adapt to the pressure, like the Goldfish Bowl of Glasgow, having to win every single week. But Jota has played with, one of the what they call the big three in Portugal, and for my money, probably one of the only kind of similar teams to Celtic in Europe. There's not many. You've probably got Ajax, you've got Rangers if we're honest. You've probably got Benfica, Porto, maybe Sporting Lisbon to a lesser extent, maybe Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, etc. But these clubs where you have huge pressure on you to perform, every week. If one bad result is a crisis. So it shouldn't really be too different for him at Celtic than it was at Benfica.
No, not particularly. I think obviously I can't comment too much on what like the media and stuff is like in Scotland, but in terms of in Portugal, it can get really ferocious. So there's sections of fans in Portugal that won't read. Say like they have like 3 or 4 major newspapers, and they get labelled as newspapers that represent this club or this club or this club. I won't say any names, but so that side of it, the politics side of it, is crazy. That's one of the things in Portugal that could probably do with improving. To be honest, this sort of clubismo that they have. But I think in terms of going to Scotland, as you say, that sort of Goldfish Bowl, Glasgow, Lisbon, historic football in cities that have got 2 historic football teams as well. Because I suppose if you're talking about Sporting, then you're talking about Rangers as being the sort of the arch enemy to the team. But yeah, I think the pressure he's a player that will want to get into his rhythm, will want to find his rhythm quickly, get into the side, show what he can do, and hopefully there's not too many bad results for him to have to go through. But yeah, when Benfica lose a game, it's seen as the end of the world. They had a poor period under Jorge Jesus since his sort of re-arrival, and again it's like everyone's up in arms. But I don't think he'll have felt too much when things haven't been going well, because he hasn't really been integrated into the first team. Right. So as I say, I think he only started 1 Premier League match in his entire Benfica career. So he only started 1 match in the top flight. He's came on and off the bench and stuff, but it's not the same. But it'll be a test of his character to see, right, if things aren't going well, am I going to be the one that picks up the ball and tries to make a difference, or am I going to be someone that'll, we see players that will maybe shake the responsibilities a little bit, and I don't see him being that type of player at all, to be honest. Especially from what I've seen with the Portugal youth sides. See, youth football is different, but I'll just go back to the Euros in 2018. I think that was the first time he played in the under-17 Euros as well. But when they won the 2018 under-19 European Championships, he won the joint top scorer with Francisco Trincao, and they were just in the final. Portugal, he scored 4 goals and he scored 2 and assisted 2. He just completely ran the show against Italy. It was an Italy side, the Italy side that had like Moise Keane, I think, in and a couple of others. But it was just like, pressure's on. I want it. I want to take the game to them. I want to be the main man. And he had a hand in all 4 goals. He was brilliant. And I think that tournament was a lot of people thinking, right, he's only got really the under 20s, under 21s, and before you know, he should be playing senior football in 2-3 years. And I think that's where the initial frustration is because you think, well, that was in 2018, so you got 2019, 2020, 2021. So where we are now, probably thinks I haven't played as much football in the last couple of years as I should have, but on the face of it, but now he's got to move to Celtic, and look, there's a lot of worse clubs that he could go to, and I mean that, like, you've got the chance to go to Celtic to go and play for, to say, this fan base, and for a team that wants to win, he could do a lot worse than going to Celtic. I can tell you that for free.
Definitely right. We'll chat more with you in a second, Aaron, but I did tease you with the prospect of hearing from the man himself. We were involved in the Celtic Fan Media press conference earlier today. We'll split this into two chunks. Here's the first chunk featuring my questions to Jota. Hi, Jota.
Hello.
Hiya. You've been a Benfica fan, I think, since you were young. Celtic have played Benfica quite a few times over the last 15 years. Were you at any of those games? Do you have any memories of Celtic?
Yes, actually, there's a really good story about the game at home in Benfica in Lisbon, because in the end, I was in that game. I was in the stands watching the game, and in the end of the game, there was like 3 Celtic fans who were walking with me, and I was very young. I was like 11 years old or something like that, and they asked me if we wanted to change scarves, because you guys have the green and white scarf and we have the red and white scarf. And they said, yeah, do you want to switch up? And I said I wanted. So I think I still have that scarf at home. So coincidences or no, I think the story was meant to be. So yeah, right now I'm a Celtic player, and I think it was a good thing in the past.
Would you describe yourself as an entertainer and someone that can excite the Celtic fans?
Yeah, sure. I've grown up with that type of mentality to put a smile on everyone's faces who is watching the game, and mainly in mine, so that I could be happy playing. And that's what I try to do, like to score as much as I can, to assist, to playmaking, to help my teammates doing their thing. And yeah, I think in the end the most important thing it will be the group and the dynamic, so we can win things and achieve titles. So yeah, I just can't wait to do everything.
Just wanted to know, like, what did Ange Postecoglou say to you to convince you that Celtic was the place to continue your career and your development as a player?
Yeah, I've spoke about everything what the team was doing, and he just wants me to incorporate as soon as possible in the team to understand what they do, their philosophy, their dynamic. And yeah, I'm here for 3 days and I'm really liking the things I'm seeing, so I just can't wait to put everything in the game and to learn everything from the lads.
So the main thing I took from that, Aaron, how good his English is. He's hard on himself for it. He kind of had a go at himself when he couldn't think of a word in the I think it was improvisation or something like that, like a mega word. I mean, I can barely say that, so God knows how, a 21-year-old Portuguese guy. I mean, we were chatting about this before we start recording, but his English is brilliant. For me, it's probably better than someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, who's 15 years or so older and has been in England for a large point of his career and currently is, obviously. But it's quite a common thing, you were saying, for this group of kind of youngsters.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just going based off sort of what I've seen and what I've heard as well. But there's the younger generation. I don't know whether it's to do with social media as well. And obviously, English has always been a really prevalent language, and they learn it from a young age in school. But yeah, I've noticed that a couple from that sort of 1999 generation, are fluent, and I think that will help with his adaptation as well. It's this English is more accessible now. It's more accessible than it ever was. The whether they listen to music or watch films, that always been the main ones have always been produced either in America or in the UK. Whereas now that's even more so, and I think I always think the first ever interview I did was a couple of years back now, and I interviewed a defender called Gonzalo Cardozo, and he just signed for West Ham from Boavista. So I went down to London, and I was thinking, wasn't too sure. My Portuguese then wasn't as good as it is now, but it was still, I was thinking I can still sort of piece together the questions. And yeah, I was speaking to him, and he was the same. He was really hard on himself, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, your English is like near fluent. There was a couple of sort of tense changes and stuff, natural stuff that you get wrong if you learn a second language. But I was completely blown away. And the press officer said beforehand, I said, is he okay to do it? He said, yeah. He said, it's completely fluent. And I think that does help, because he was saying off air before about going to Scotland, it might be a little bit difficult if there's thick Glaswegian questions, but on overall, it just helps. It helps them feel less isolated. It helps them feel less sort of on their own. You see a lot of British players that move abroad, and the main reason that gets slated as why many British players don't choose to move abroad is because the learning of language, especially sort of like in secondary schools and high schools, it's not as there's not as much emphasis of it. But these players, they come here and they just pick it up like that. So I never ever learn to learn Portuguese in school. I stopped learning Spanish when I was like 14, 15. Whereas these players, they've been learning English since they were like 4 or 5.
It's amazing. I genuinely was quite blown away, and you don't want to sound patronising at all, as in, oh, well done, you can speak our language, because as I say, I genuinely, I can say obrigado and obrigada, and that's about it in Portuguese, but his English is excellent. So I think it is a good point. He's going to be able to come into that dressing room and speak the language of the majority of players. Now, we do have a number of players in our squad now. I don't know how good Kyogo's English is. I think Japanese people in general do seem to have a decent grasp on English, and they're actually quite similar. They're quite hard on themselves. I don't think our winger Abada, the Israeli winger, speaks much English. So hopefully it allows Jota to settle in quite quickly. What are Celtic fans going to see from him the first time they watch him? What are the obvious things that spring out?
Just a willingness to want the ball, a willingness to go and get the ball. You'll see an exciting player who loves to use a change of pace. He sometimes takes supporters by surprise when I watch him. He loves to do I mentioned this recently to someone I was speaking to. He has that sort of that patented Portuguese dribbling style, and Nani had it when he first came to the Premier League, and obviously Cristiano Ronaldo, like this willingness to get the ball and then just completely come to a standstill, and then like wait for the defender and then go throw in a couple of step overs and he's gone. Whereas like there's some players who maybe aren't as technically proficient, they just will maybe want to get up to full speed, whack the ball past the fullback and just sort of take them in a sprint. He's like technically his footwork is insane. Like, and I mean that. He's I'm not just blowing smoke up him. His change of direction, his change of pace, the fact that he's comfortable on either foot. Obviously, he's predominantly right-footed, but because he's playing on the left, he's had to get used to sort of knocking the ball inside with his left foot to then run with his right foot. You're getting a player that will want to cut inside and shoot, have efforts, cut inside and play crosses deep to the back post, which is something that he likes to do as well. Someone that just wants to create goal-scoring opportunities, someone that wants to get the crowd off their feet. One of the things that maybe he got a little bit, not criticism for, but with young players, sometimes their end product is always questioned. But at the youth levels, he's always scored, he's always assisted, but it's how can he take that then into the senior side, because he hasn't been sort of as lucky. And obviously the level will go up. Playing in the Scottish Premier League, the level will go up. So it will be a little bit more difficult. He won't be posting up these insane numbers that he'll do maybe at under 21 level or under 19 level. But his, just to go back to the point, maybe a bit of a over willingness, shall we say, to beat his man. Right. So, which for fans sometimes is a joy to see. It's sort of beating your man, and then maybe there's your opportunity to get a cross in or to cut back in, cut it back to the edge of the box, and maybe he goes back and does him again. And sometimes just keeping the ball for too long. But I'm actually excited to see how he's developed, because didn't see enough of him at Valladolid, didn't see enough of him in the Benfica first team. So this is sort of his opportunity. If he thinks, if I can get first team football, I can't afford to be keeping the ball for too long and making mistakes and having a reason to be in and out the side. So obviously he'll have been training, he'll have been working on those aspects of his game. He should be a more refined and more mature player now. The only reason why I say should be is because we just haven't seen the evidence of it, because he just hasn't been given enough time. So I'm really intrigued, for one, just to see how he does. And I mentioned to a mate of mine as a Celtic supporter, and I said, I'm going to have to come up one game this season. He was like, I'll be more than happy to take you to Glasgow. And I do. I'm really intrigued. There was a lot of Portuguese players that moved through the window. The likes of Florentino Luis moved on, and there was a Diogo Leite went to Braga. Lots of players who weren't really getting too many minutes have now moved on to clubs where theoretically they should. But I would say that Jota is probably the one that I'm most excited for. Is the one that I'm most looking forward to watching, to be honest.
Exciting stuff. You're whetting the appetite, it's fair to say, Aaron. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play centrally as well. Where is he best?
For my money, he's best on the left. He's best on the left because it gives him that freedom to cut in, and he can still go to the byline and put a cross in, if that's the only option that's on. But yeah, I think starting out on the left, he can switch sort of mid-game, but I love it when he and it was something that he did quite a few times for the under-19s, is sort of picking the ball up quite deep. So so he's got all that space in front of him, gets running, maybe does the first player, and then gets to sort of like the back line, and it's at that point chooses to then cut inside onto his right foot, and then he's got the whole pitch in front of him then when he cuts in, because he's looking and he's thinking, I can either go back post where I can see, especially Portugal, they love the flying fullbacks, the wing backs. So he always had on the other side a right back that was on rushing, maybe getting to the back post. You've got a striker that's in there. You've got people running from central midfield. So sometimes he'll just play that classic cut back for people to then run onto and have a shot. He can actually cut inside and hit it himself. He's got a good strike on him as well. So for my money, yeah, when he plays on the right-hand side, he maybe can likes to take on his man a little bit more because he's playing on his right side, take him outside. But then, yeah, and then he can't really come inside because then he's on his left foot, and if he's on the right-hand side, he's playing there predominantly so he can get close to the goal and put crosses in. But I like to see him getting those shots off, to be honest. So
yeah, it's mainly the left. I think we'll probably be looking to play him in because, as I say, we've got good options, decent options on the right, whereas the left now we've lost Ryan Christie, we've lost Kyogo basically as a winger. I think he's going to be a striker now because we played him on the wing at Rangers recently. It didn't work out, so he's going to be a striker, I think, from now on, and it looks like Jota is going to be our left winger. I'm intrigued by what you were saying about him maybe taking a few too many touches sometimes because our manager doesn't want that at all. He wants things done quickly. I remember him shouting at the aforementioned Abada on the right wing. We're 5 or 6-0 up at home to St Mirren in the final 5 minutes, and Abada took too long when he could have done something quick. He tried to beat his man. I think he was on a hat-trick at the time, and the manager kind of slapped his wrist. So he's not going to stand, I don't think, for Jota doing too much on the ball. So it's one to watch. Final question. How you've kind of hinted at this already. How do you think he's going to get on?
I hate doing these predictions because they always come back.
Sorry, you don't need to come back in the channel though. See, when I make predictions, I need to front up and face the wrath
you get them
of
every
fans.
week.
Yeah.
I think he'll do well. I certainly hope he'll do well. I think he's got all the ingredients there, and I think that's the key thing. You haven't signed someone there where you're thinking, has he got enough there? He's got enough. He's definitely got enough. It's whether he can show it on a consistent basis. That's been the thing in his career so far. Have we seen talent from him? Have we seen quality from him? Of course we have. But now we need to see it week in, week out. And now we need to see it where it really matters. Now we need to see it in a Premier Division, in a top league. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing him. As I say, I definitely want to get up and watch him. But I hope he does well, and I think he will do well, to be honest. And I think Celtic supporters are from the outside looking in. I might be wrong, but if they take, I said it earlier on, if they take to a player, they really take to a player.
Yeah.
So
100%.
If they've got an in with a player, that's it. They'll be there,
And they love attacking players as well. They love players who have a bit of flair about them. I mean, most this isn't a thing exclusive to Celtic fans. Most fans do, but I think you're right. I mean, we've taken to Kyogo and Abada so much, and Jota sounds like he could be the third part of that kind of trio of attackers. Aaron, it's been brilliant to have you on. People can follow you on Twitter at Aaron Barton UK, and the website is at Proxima-Jornada.com. I'm going to link both of them in the description. It's been great to have you on, mate.
Brilliant, no problem at all. I look forward to seeing him and speak soon.
The video's not quite over yet though, people, because we're going to hear the rest of the press conference with Jota earlier on. I'm excited about this player. Let's have a listen to what else he had to say.
Hi, question from me was, what key strengths do you think you bring to the team?
I think I will bring, can I say this word again? Improvisability. Improvisation. Yeah, exactly. Sorry about the English. Improvisation, and I will try to be a dynamic player, trying to score a lot of goals, assists, playmaking, because I also like to assist my teammates, and just to be in the dynamic of the team. Yeah, I think that's it.
Hi, Jota. You were born in Lisbon. I wonder, are you aware of Celtic's association to the city of your birth?
Yes, I'm pretty much aware of that. Yeah, a big achievement for you guys. Us guys. I'm aware. Yeah, I know that you won a big thing in Lisbon, in my hometown, and I'm glad it was in my beloved city, because that's an amazing city, and for us Celtic it was like a big achievement, and I know that that's a big and important thing for everyone.
Hi Jota. Celtic, much like Benfica, are a team who expect to win every game that they take part in. Do you think that this makes the transition from Portugal to Scotland easier for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think every Celtic player needs to be ready to win every game, and that brings us pressure, but that's a good pressure. Like, we are Celtic players because of that, and we have to live with it, and it's very good, because it's the team that we represent, and we have to win every game to win every title.
Obviously, Portugal has a rich history of producing great footballers like Figo and Ronaldo and many others. Who did you idolise growing up as a player?
Yeah, when I was younger, I always look up to Cristiano Ronaldo, because it was at the time that he was breaking through in United, and I watched every single game of him, and I just wanted to copy everything. And I think pretty much of my style of game was thinking on what things he was doing in United. Yeah, and it was good times to watch him, and he's back in the UK, so he's close to us. Yeah.
How important was it for the club you joined this summer to be in European football, and did that have a big bearing on your decision to join Celtic?
Just the Celtic himself, the name speaks for itself, and I couldn't say no. It's an amazing team, such a historic team, and to be in Europa League, to be in the Scottish League, it's amazing, and I just can't wait to play as much as I can and to win everything.
Hi, I wonder if you're aware of the impact that George Cadet made when he joined Celtic. And I think he scored a brilliant goal in his debut. And I wonder about your fitness levels, if you're going to be ready for the weekend, if we can expect to see you.
Yeah, I'm working every day to do it, but that depends on the coach then. So he's the one who makes the decisions. I just try to do my best, and then he will make the best decisions for the team. So yeah, I can't wait for that.